Welcome back, guys. Let us wait for others to join, and then we'll begin our discussion today. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Dinesh, so is it necessary to take running notes? Of course not. It depends on you. I write most of the things, but of course there would be some statements I would make which I don't write. But largely, I don't think it is really required. Shiv, can the pocket video be transferred to? Of course it can. Okay, Nikhil, I do not understand 15% ministers thing. 15% ministers thing. See, there are 543 people in the Lok Sabha, MPs, 245 in Rajya Sabha, right? That makes the total number of MPs, not ministers, MPs, elected people. Rahul Gandhi is an MP. Is he a minister? He is not. So 788 MPs are there. We can't have 500 ministers. It will be too much. So there is an upper limit set. How many ministers can you have at the central level? 15%. That number has to be calculated. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. How much? The calculation is that 15% of total number of MPs of Lok Sabha, whatever is that number, that is the maximum number of ministers that we can have in the country. That's it. Absolute veto means I am rejecting. Pocket means I am not stating anything. Very simple example is, let's say you tell somebody that you like them, you love them, whatever you express your emotions, and the person remains quiet. The message is seen and not responded to. That is pocket veto. But if the person responds and says, sorry, I hate you, that's an absolute veto. Simple. Yes, result is the same, but the pocket veto is whenever you are willing, the person can always respond saying, yes, I am signing. So till the time the person does not respond, we don't know what will happen. Shiva, so these guidelines by Supreme Court or judgments, where are they mentioned? Supreme Court has a monthly digest where they are mentioned. You can also see all these judgments on various websites that publish these judgments. Indian Qanoon is a very popular website which publishes these judgments and all. Nirbhay, if the president rejects a bill, the bill is over. It's dead. We have to again bring the bill in the parliament, again pass it right from scratch. Okay, so I believe a lot of you have joined. Let's begin our discussion now on the other provisions pertaining to Article 75. I hope you have had our own share of tea and coffee. No sleeping, please. please be awake and focus on what is being taught. So, Article 75, we have seen clause 1, we have seen clause 1A, now clause 2. And we have already seen clause 2, so I won't explain it. Under the chapter present, we have seen the minister shall hold office during the pleasure of the president. So that pleasure is the hung parliament pleasure and also the pleasure with respect to ensuring maintenance of purity of administration. So we have seen that in the previous class. Now clause 3. The Council of Ministers shall be collectively responsible to the House of People. What is Council of Ministers? Government. The entire government is collectively responsible to the House of People. We have a parliamentary form of government. This is a very important element of parliamentary form of government. What is that important element? That the ministers are responsible, are accountable to the lower house. Lower house meaning Lok Sabha. In our country, House of the People is the directly elected house, meaning all the MPs in Lok Sabha are chosen by us from our own constituencies, and the ministers are accountable to them. This is why we say that the government is formed in Lok Sabha because the MPs, the ministers are responsible to the what? Ministers are responsible to the House of People, collectively responsible. This is a very important element of parliamentary form of government. In a parliamentary system, the Council of Ministers are accountable to the legislature. Or we can say the executive is accountable to the legislature. Are we clear? This is what is the meaning of parliamentary form of government. So if you look at Article 75 clause 3, this is very clearly visible here, that the Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the House of People or the Lok Sabha. Meaning what? Now, we have understood this responsibility part. What do you mean by collective? What is the importance of this word collective? Collective basically refers to the fact that the entire group of ministers are collectively, as a whole unit, accountable to the legislature. Basically, it means all these ministers, they act as a single unit, as a common unit. So the decisions taken by government are binding on all the ministers. If let's say the government today says that or government brings a proposal, or government had made some changes on Article 370, for example, if I'm a government minister, if I'm a minister in any ministry, I cannot go against the decision. So every government decision is something that I have to agree to. If I'm having a problem with the government's decision, I should resign from the ministry's post. As simple as that. That is why we say that decisions of government are binding on all ministers. If you have any kind of disagreement, that should be in private, right? That is why we say decision of the minister is the same as decision of government. Ministers stand together, fall together. Okay, so that is called collective responsibility. The element of collective being they stand together, they fall together. Okay, so this is with respect to the Council of Ministers collectively being responsible towards the Lok Sabha. Okay, then clause 4. Clause 4 says that whenever any minister enters upon the office, the president will administer oath. Just like the president has to get the oath, ministers also are administered oath by the president. And there are two oaths of the ministers. What are the two oaths? Oath number 1 is the oath of office. Oath number 2 is the oath of secrecy. And these oaths are mentioned in the third schedule of the Indian Constitution. Okay, so what is this oath of office? Very simple. It says, I, AB, do swear in the name of God or solemnly affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established, that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India. You know, this phrase, upholding the sovereignty and integrity of India, is a part of the oath of the ministers. Now, this was not there originally actually. This word has been added in 1963 after the Indo-China War, added via 16th Amendment Act 1963. This means what? This means from this date onwards, we have also asked the ministers to take an oath to uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India. Beyond this, they will faithfully and conscientiously discharge duties as a minister for the union, and that I will do right to all manner of people in accordance with the constitution and the law, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. So they take an oath that they will not show affection or ill will against any individual. How true that is best left for the ministers to decide. But that is an oath taken by every minister. Okay. Then, one more thing. This oath of office, if you break this oath, what happens? Nothing happens. This oath of office is just a moral obligation. Moral obligation on every minister. God will punish you if you break this oath. And we'll see what happens when God punishes. So otherwise, there is no legal obligation here. But there is one more oath that the ministers take, that is called oath of secrecy. Now, understand this point. You also in future, once you are a bureaucrat, you will become privy to lot of sensitive information, right? Lot of confidential documents, etc., will become known to you. Can we trust you to keep the documents or knowledge safely? When you are a minister, you will also come to know of where the nuclear missiles are, where's the nuclear button, all these things. I mean, can you keep these things a secret? Or are you somebody, like in our group of friends, there is one person always there. If you tell him or her any secret, the entire group will come to know because they cannot keep secrets. Are you that kind of person? Can we have faith in you having sensitive information? Let's say you come to know that the nuclear missiles are kept here, and you tell the public, see, I have come to know nuclear missiles are kept in this place. What will happen? Tomorrow, every YouTuber will go there and say, see, at the backdrop, all these missiles are there. Please like my channel, subscribe to my video. All this will start happening, right? So we have to understand that you are getting lot of sensitive information. Please keep that a secret. That is why this oath is there, oath of secrecy. That I, AB, do swear in the name of God or solemnly affirm that I will not directly or indirectly communicate or reveal to any person or persons any matter which shall be brought to my notice or which shall be brought under my consideration or shall become known to me as a minister. Right? So that is there. Now, if you disclose any such information which is strategic in our country, then what happens? You can be punished under a law. There is a law in a country which punishes for such offenses. Oath of secrecy has a legal obligation. It is not just moral. Why? Because we have a law called Official Secrets Act. Under this law, what happens? If you are known to disclose sensitive information to outsiders, you can be jailed for 3 to 14 years. Official Secrets Act. It is a very old British made law of 1923. There is jail also, 3 to 14 years. So this is a serious offense. Don't worry, you are also covered under this only. In fact, every individual in the country is covered under OSA. If you try to expose any kind of information which is sensitive information, strategic information, military movement, troop movement, a map of certain sensitive areas and all, you can be jailed for up to 14 years also. Same goes for ministers. Anyway, so we are discussing Schedule 3 where you have all these oaths. So apart from this, Schedule 3 also contains oath of some other categories of people. Firstly, in Schedule 3, just like Schedule 2 contains list of people whose salaries are mentioned, Schedule 3 contains list of people whose oath is mentioned. So number one, ministers. So for ministers, you have the central government ministers as well as state government ministers. Both ministers' oath is mentioned here. Then candidates, all those people who want to contest elections. Those who want to contest, your oath is mentioned here, and you have to take this oath in front of Election Commission of India's officer before you contest elections. Whether for parliament or for state legislature, if you want to contest elections in the country, you have to take an oath. Then all the legislators, whether you are an MP in the Lok Sabha, whether you are an MP in the Rajya Sabha, whether you are an MLA, whether you are an MLC, whether you are elected, whether you are nominated, every member before taking up the seat in the house has to take the oath. Elected or nominated. Okay. Then the judges of Supreme Court, judges of High Courts. Their oath is mentioned in Schedule 3. And lastly, CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General. These people's oath is mentioned under Schedule 3. Anyway, so that is all as far as the oath is concerned. Now, coming back to Article 75, we had seen Article 75, Clause 4. Oath is mentioned in Schedule 3. Now, Clause 5. I think you would know Clause 5. This is the example of this oath. See, oath of office, oath of secrecy for the minister. That is mentioned here. Third schedule, see Article 75, Clause 4. Okay. Now, Article 75, Clause 5. Have you seen this movie? This movie was made in various languages. Of course, people from Tamil Nadu would remember the original movie by Shankar. Arjun was the actor. People in the Hindi belt would remember this as Nayak. So it all depends on which area you belong to. So this movie Nayak had this very interesting concept, one day chief minister, right? My question is very simple. Is this possible? One day CM, one day PM. Can any person who is not a member of the house, can he become a chief minister or a prime minister or any minister? I mean, is this possible? 10 seconds. Mark your answer. A for yes, B for no. 31% say no, I will give you new information. Yes, it is possible. Any person who is otherwise qualified, who has the age and all, right, can become the minister or prime minister. The only condition is that within 6 months, you have to become a member of the house. That's it. Within 6 months, you have to become member of any house, elected or nominated. That is what is Article 75, Clause 5. A minister who, for any period of 6 consecutive months, is not a member of either House of Parliament shall, at the expiry of that period, cease to be a minister. And this is meant for ministers, including Prime Minister. In fact, to give you a very simple example, our External Affairs Minister S. Shankar, whose thug life videos you see everywhere, right? So basically, he became a minister, I think, on 30th of May 2019, and he was not a member of any house. It was only in July that he was made the member of Rajya Sabha. So it's possible. Okay. In fact, people like H.D. Devegoda have become prime minister without being a member of any house, and then he was nominated to the Rajya Sabha. So there is no need for you to be a member of the house at that point of time. But eventually you have to become member of the house, elected or nominated. So this is a very interesting point, that see, for 6 months it's okay, but after 6 months, can you still continue to be a minister without being MP, or can you still be a minister without being MLA, MLC? No. So within 6 months, you have to become a member of the house, elected or nominated. This also brings us to a second observation about parliamentary system. What is that? The second observation is that the executive ministers are a part of legislature. Yes or no? I'll give you a simple diagrammatic representation of this. Let's draw a diagram. This is the parliament. Entire parliament comprising of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. Okay, this is the parliament. Now, this parliament has MPs. MPs sitting everywhere, here, there, everywhere. Think of these dashes as MPs everywhere. Some of these MPs basically belong to ruling party, and they are ministers. So some of these MPs become ministers. They are a part of Council of Ministers. This means what? This means executive is a part of legislature. This is also a feature of parliamentary system. Okay. So that is all as far as Article 75 is concerned. Now, a couple of things that you should know. Number one, people who are otherwise eligible or qualified to be a member of the house can only be made ministers under this provision. Can a small kid become minister? Of course not. Why? Because within 6 months also that kid can never become a member of any house, because the age is there. 25 years for Lok Sabha, 30 for Rajya Sabha. So this provision can only be used in case the person is otherwise qualified or eligible to become member of the parliament. And one more thing, this provision cannot be used for reappointment. Sorry, no reappointment. So what may happen that you are made a minister, you are not an MP of any house. After 5 months, 29 days, you resign. After one more day, again you become minister. After again 5 months, 29 days, you resign. Again you make a minister. That's not possible. Reappointments are not allowed. This had happened back in 1990s. So in Punjab, we had this case where uh, this very popular case of S.R. Chaudhary, 2001, where in Punjab in 1990s, H.S. Brar became the chief minister. And H.S. Brar appointed one T.P. Singh as a minister. T.P. Singh was not a member of any house. Then there was some kind of power sharing which happened, and after 2.5 years, we had a change of chief minister, and Rajinder Kaur became the first CM of Punjab. So she also appointed TP Singh again as a minister for 6 months. So that matter went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that sorry, no reappointments. And one more thing, such people who become ministers because they are not members of the house, they can't vote in the parliament. One more thing. Non-member ministers can't vote in the parliament. Okay, that's there. Lastly, we have Article 75, Clause 6, salaries and allowances of ministers, which shall be as a parliament from time to time decides. Oh, somebody asked, can you tell the dialogue of this movie which is wrong in appointment? Oh, that case. So see, this movie Nayak, of course, this movie is appropriate and correct in the sense that anybody can be a CM for 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, 6 months, 3 months, 4 months, maximum 6 months. But then if you remember this movie properly and you remember the scene also, when after the interview is over, this person, he goes back to his party office and there's complete hue and cry there, hula balu there as to what you have done. And there's a list of lawyers sitting there only. And one such party worker asks the lawyers, tell us, is it even possible? What has this fellow promised in the interview? And all those lawyers have this book called the Constitution of India, D.D. Basu's Constitution of India. So one such lawyer says, yes, sir, it is possible as per fundamental rights. That is where he was wrong. Not as per fundamental rights. As per Article 75, Clause 5 for center and 164, Clause 4 for what? 164, Clause 4 for states. So the movie was almost correct with this small minor issue that they were trying to refer this provision to fundamental rights. So it is not some fundamental right. It is mentioned under Article 75 and Article 164. Okay. Now, moving on. Is non-member minister known as nominated MP? No, no, no. Non-member minister means non-member. How can you call him MP? MP means what? Member of parliament. I am saying non-member, you are calling him MP. Not possible. Nominated people are those who have not been elected but have been nominated or have been directly appointed. That's it. They are also members of the house. I am referring to non-members. people who are not members of the house. Okay. Yes. If you become part of the parliament, of course you can vote. Voting in the parliament is only meant for people who are members of the house, not non-members. Okay, finally, Article 75, Clause 6, salaries. Salaries and allowances of ministers shall be such as the parliament may from time to time by law determine. So there is a law. That law is called the Salaries and Allowances of Ministers Act 1952. There is a law called the Salaries and Allowances of Ministers Act 1952. If you want to increase the salary of ministers, modify the law, salary can increase. And just to give you a context, in the budget, roughly 1700 to 1800 crore rupees are spent on the minister's salaries, their salary, their travel, their entertaining the guests, etc. Almost 2000 crore rupees. See, the salary of ministers is same as that of any MP. Salary is 1 lakh rupees per month. Then you have something called the constituency allowance of 70,000 rupees. Then you have office expense allowance of 60,000 rupees. Then you have something called, so what do ministers get? They get extra, what is called sumptuary allowance. That is what ministers get. MPs don't get that. So there is something called sumptuary allowance. Sumptuary allowance is given to ministers. This is basically given to entertain visitors. Entertain does not mean dance and sing and all. Food, right? Biscuit, etc. It is also called hospitality allowance. You also get the money, don't worry, when you're an IAS officer. So what basically happens is, if you're a minister, big rich people will come and meet you in the office. You can't give them Parle G and all. You have to give them homemade cookies, some kind of costly cookies and stuff. So that requires money. So Prime Minister gets 3,000 rupees per day as entertainment or hospitality allowance or sumptuary allowance to entertain visitors. And other ministers get 2,000 and 1,000 rupees depending on their rank. You'll also get this money, don't worry, to spend on people who come and meet you. So that's there. So this is all about Article 75. Clause 1 is the appointment by the president. 1A is the maximum limit of ministers. Then 2 is the pleasure doctrine. 3 is collective responsibility. 4 is the oath of office and secrecy. 5 is the Nayak article. You can be as PM or minister for maximum 6 months without being a member of the house. And clause 6 is the salaries and allowances. Okay. That's there. Solve this question came in 2007. I'll start the poll by giving you 30 seconds. You can read the question now, or say 1 minute. Full enjoyment of time, don't worry. Assertion: the Council of Ministers in the Union of India is collectively responsible both to the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Reason: the members of both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha are eligible to be the members of to the ministers of the Union government. Okay. 10 seconds remain. Yera Ratnasri is non-member minister also known as, I think I have answered this question. non-member cannot be called an MP. To be a member, to be an MP, you have to be a member of the House. D, 46%. Okay, great. Look at the assertion. The Council of Ministers in the Union of India is collectively responsible to both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Really? Only Lok Sabha, not Rajya Sabha. Article 75, Clause 3. Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the House of the People. Right? So A is wrong. If A is wrong, both A and R are true. No, A and A is not true by A is not true. What it remains? D. A is false. That's it. You have the answer. This is correct. Okay. One more question came in 2012. I'll give you 30 seconds for this. Please mark the answer. Oh, sorry. Mark the answer now. Great. 76% got this answer correct. Amazing. So the PM of India at the time of his or her appointment need not necessarily be a member of one of the houses, but must become member of any house within 6 months. A is the correct answer. Absolutely correct. Great. Now, we also know Article 78, so there is no need to discuss Article 78. We already know Article 78, duty of the PM to furnish information to the whom? To the President. Okay. Now, let's come to the various categories of ministers in the country. Now, please pay attention. I'll explain this through a very simple diagram that you can understand. Let me draw a diagram here. So, in our country, the entire group of ministers, everybody collectively, this entire group is called what? Council of Ministers. Yes or no? Everybody. But have you seen the cricket matches or even movies? In movies, in cricket, everywhere, you will see that, let's say, a cricket match, Team India. There are some people who are the senior most players. Senior most players. In case the match is going in a very difficult situation, all these senior people, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, they'll come together and start discussing on what to do. The junior players are sitting on the boundaries, fielding there, watching everything quietly. So there is a hierarchy of players. In the movie, there are some main actors, then there are some other actors, right? Character roles, then people who come and go for a few scenes. So hierarchy of posts there also. Same thing happens here as well. There is a hierarchy of posts in the ministry also. Some ministers are the senior most ministers. These people are referred to as the council, the cabinet ministers. The topmost people, the senior most people are referred to as cabinet minister. Okay. Then we have the second group of ministers who are called ministers of state, not in the state government and all. They are known as ministers of state. Independent charge, second category of ministers. Ministers of state, independent charge. And finally, the third category of ministers that we have in the country are called ministers of state. Again, they are not in the state government, but are just called ministers of state. Now, what are these people and what is the criteria? So, this is what is called the portfolio system. What is portfolio? Portfolio basically refers to ministry. Ministry is called portfolio. Home ministry, home portfolio. Defense ministry, defense portfolio. That is called portfolio. So in this system of various ministers, we have three categories of ministers. And mind you, these categories are not mentioned in the constitution. Okay, so in the constitution these categories are not there. The constitution only knows one minister, that's it, and prime minister, PM, and other ministers. Constitution calls all of them council of ministers. But in this council there are some people who are the senior most ministers. They are called cabinet ministers. So these are the senior most ministers, and they take care of the most important ministries. Control the most important ministries. That is there. Okay, this is a cabinet minister. Now, look at the ministers in the cabinet. They are around 25 to 30 people. Roughly 25 to 30 ministers are there. As of now, we have 29, but that is how the range is. Okay. Look at this. We have Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, Amit Shah, home minister, important ministries, right? If you look at all these important ministries, you realize one more thing, that these ministries are very, very big and large. They're not some small ministry. Ministry of Road Transport and Highways across the country, right? It's a very big ministry. How can a single minister handle everything? Not possible, right? So, to help and support these ministers, we have a concept of minister of state. So, in every ministry, you have some department. Minister of state are given charge of a department under a cabinet minister. So, these are junior ministers who are given charge of a department under a ministry. Junior ministers given charge or control of department or some departments under a cabinet ministry. So ministers of state are those people who support the cabinet minister. That's it. And they are roughly 40-45 people. Currently, I think there are 47 such ministers who are ministers of state. Now, there are some ministers who are called ministers of state independent charge. So this word independent charge means they don't come under any cabinet minister. They control small ministries independently. Small portfolios, not big portfolio like home or defense, no, small portfolios like Ministry of Science and Tech, Ministry of Earth Sciences, Ministry of Statistics, etc. So these people, they are given charge of smaller ministries independently. The word here to be focused on is independently, meaning they don't come under any minister. Okay, they are given a small portfolio to handle independently, right? So this is the categorization of the ministers. And in our country, the senior most group is the cabinet ministers, of course. They are the ones who actually run the country, right? Other junior ministers, they hardly have a task to perform, right? So they all work under the minister only. And these are the senior most people. And hence we say that the entire country is being run by the cabinet. What is cabinet? A small part of council of ministers who are the senior most ministers. Look at this figure here. Always remember, cabinet ministers are a part of council of ministers, a small group of 25-30 senior most people, okay, based on various factors, seniority in the party, closeness to prime minister, etc. Okay, that is there with respect to cabinet ministers. Okay, now see, you may also see in your books, etc., some other categories. For example, deputy minister, or people who are called parliamentary secretary. See, what used to happen was earlier there was no limit on how many ministers we could make. So to appease everybody in the party, I would give post to everyone. Okay, you are a cabinet minister, very close friend of mine. You are a average kind of friend, minister of independent charge. You're also a decent friend. Okay, or you left, you are left. Or you send me good morning texts. Okay, I'll make a deputy minister. So this kind of thing used to happen. But now what has happened is that there is a limit set. You can't have too many ministers. The max limit is 15% only, right? So these ministers or these categories no longer exist. Anyway, these are not mentioned anywhere, so there is no problem also. So they no longer exist. They used to exist in 1980s and 70s. Now they no longer exist. Okay, so we only have currently three kinds of ministers, and that is also not mentioned in the constitution. I'm reminding you again, the constitution focuses on only one type of minister, and that is what? Council of ministers. Everybody is a part of council of ministers only. Okay, so this is with respect to the ministers. Now coming to, as I said, cabinet. Cabinet is the most important group, the senior most people. So what are the functions of the cabinet? See, why do we have this senior group of ministers? Senior most people, they control the entire ministry, council of ministers, and they will also keep a check on ministers' behavior, junior ministers' behavior, directing their behavior properly, right? And it is a cabinet which ensures the collective responsibility of the government towards the people of the country, right? So this idea of cabinet is what? To ensure collective responsibility of the government towards people. This is what is the concept of cabinet. Now, what are the functions performed by cabinet? Number one, cabinet is a supreme executive authority. Of course, it is the senior most body in the country. Yes, the entire council of ministers are a part of our executive only, but amongst those executives, who is supreme? Cabinet is supreme. Then They are the principal policy making body. Every policy in the country is decided by the cabinet only, right? Then they are a coordinating body. They ensure coordination between various ministries, etc. Then preparation, enactment, and execution of budget. So basically, what happens is, how is the budget prepared? Recent times also must have seen this budget exercise, and our finance minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, she was reading the budget. And whenever the finance ministers read the budget, the PMs are very excited. They clap, they act surprised. Oh, this scheme also, that scheme also. Really? But do you think that the PM does not know that what scheme is being launched? All the schemes are being launched on their advice and after discussion with the PM and other ministers only. They have to act surprised that, oh, amazing, this scheme, grand scheme. So it is just for the media and people. They know everything. Are we clear? So the very important point is that the entire cabinet 5-6 months before the budget only sit and discuss on what next, what plans for next year, and then they decide. Finance ministry will only finalize the minute details. That's it. So preparing, enacting, and executing the budget, the cabinet has a very important role to play. Then all senior level appointments. Sadly, every senior appointment is controlled by the cabinet only. Secretaries in the offices, joint secretaries, additional secretaries, all the ministers will appoint these kind of people. Cabinet decides all these things. Yes, you will say, but sir, you said the president appoints. Of course, the president appoints. But Article 74, PM says, sir, make him attorney general. President says, of course, signs. PM says, sir, make him a governor of this state. President says, okay, as you say. That's it. That is why when in future you become an IAS officer, see, not in the initial stages, not at the level of an under secretary or deputy secretary, but joint secretary and above. The minister will be very keen on appointing people who have performed very well. See, frankly, we may constantly say that, you have to be in the good books of ministers and all. That's there, of course, there. But no amount of sycophancy will help you in getting a good post, because eventually it is all performance. If you can't perform properly, whether you are somebody's relative or cousin, you're bound to fail. That's the sad part of it. So if you are a good performer, you have performed very well in a ministry at a lower level, you have been a very popular district magistrate, you have innovative schemes, ideas, and your career is largely free from corruption, you have a very great chance of getting promoted to the rank of a joint secretary. I mean, you will become a joint secretary, additional secretary, a secretary also in the ministry. So all these things are largely controlled, and your behavior is under keen observation by the senior minister, right? Because everybody wants a very able bureaucrat. Okay. Then crisis management. If anything goes wrong, all the senior ministers have a meeting called cabinet meeting, right? Like in a cricket match, when their final death overs are there, right? Then all the senior players will huddle together and decide what to do, who to give the next over to, how to set the fielding and stuff. Same thing here. In times of crisis, they sit and discuss together what steps can be taken. And of course, they provide CEOs to principal organs of government. What is an organ of government? This word organ of government refers to ministry. And who is the CEO? What do you mean by CEO? CEO is the head. Who is the head of the ministry? Minister. So other way of saying the same thing is that they are the CEOs of the principal organs of the government. That is all as far as the functions of the cabinet is concerned. Okay. Now, very important element, choosing ministers. What elements, what factors have to be kept in mind while choosing a minister? Let's say you are the prime minister, and a question to everyone here. You are the PM, and you have to decide on your council, entire cabinet, ministers, junior ministers, everybody. What will be those elements that you will keep in mind? Write some elements. Tell me. What are things that you will keep in mind while choosing ministers? Please type your answer. Efficiency, seniority, background, past experience, corruption-free minister, honesty, integrity. Don't say friendship, please. Free of corruption. Budget is managing ability, academic qualification, proper implementation of sections, okay. Educational background, integrity, closeness with people. As I said, don't mention friendship. Good character, knowledge, communication ability, character, popularity in people, master in that field. Okay. Education, behavior expert. Fair enough, fair enough. See, a lot of you are focusing on mm, education and knowledge, etc., which is a very weird thing. I mean, the minister is the head of the ministry. As I said, the CEO of a ministry. Then they already have people like you, right? They already have bureaucrats who are experts in the various fields. Being an expert should not be the first criteria. No. They already have people like you who are experts. See, let us address these concerns one by one. The very first element that you should keep in mind while making ministers is the regional representation. First element. Regional representation. India is a very diverse country, a very vast country. Regional representation is very, very important because every region should feel that they are a part of this inclusive government. Today, even if we do not have any, I mean, we do not have, let's say the BJP has no stronghold in Tamil Nadu. For example, I mean, Annamalai is there who is working to bring a stronghold right now. But still, we do have ministers from Tamil Nadu, people from Tamil Nadu as ministers, right? Same goes for northeastern states. So whether you are from a state, whether your state does send MPs or not, the center, the PM's task should be to ensure that every region gets some kind of representation at the minister's level. Regional representation. Second thing is also representation of various communities. Various communities. This could be based on, say, gender, men, women, based on language, right? Based on caste, based on religion. Now, you may say, sir, why caste? See, the point here is the point here is that when it comes to caste or religion or language, it's a reality of our country, right? And it's a very genuine reality. We can't, simply look the other way. That no, caste is not real. It is a reality. People do vote on the basis of caste. Caste groups are very, very strong. Language groups are very, very strong. Religious groups are very, very strong. We have to also make sure that every caste, every group, every language does have some representation at the ministerial level. That is very important. And if anybody feels here that no, caste is not a reality, I think I would refer to you to look into the Sunday Matrimonial newspaper, and you'll realize that caste is a reality in the country. Every groom or every bride rather wants a groom who has a six-figure salary, and every bride wants a groom, of course, from the same caste, who is white, fair, beautiful. These things are still there with us. Sadly, it is still there. What can we do? people do vote on the basis of caste. It is very, very important element. When we eliminate caste completely, then we'll not vote and not choose on the basis of caste. But what all things will eliminate? Caste, language, religion. This is the diversity of the country. We have to appreciate it, right? There are so many languages, and we have to appreciate the languages. That is why we have found the common ground, English being a common language, right? We can't force everybody to learn Tamil or Telugu or Hindi or Sanskrit. That's it. But we have to respect their language and culture. If you speak Hindi, we'll respect you. If you speak Tamil, we'll respect you. That's it. So we have to have regional representation and representing various communities also. In fact, age is a very important element, right? Young, old. Then what a lot of you mentioned was very important. You have to have a certain level of integrity. If you have too many pending criminal cases, we don't think you'll be a right minister. No, no, no. You may be possibly very corrupt. So integrity is a very important element. Then that is honesty, corruption-free behavior. Then age factor is also there. There should be a maximum limit of 75 years. This government is largely following it, at least for other ministers, not prime minister. They are following it. That see, once you cross a certain age, a minister's job is to run here and there, meet dignitaries, move, travel. So the older you get, the more difficult it is for you to travel and roam around here and there, right? So in that sense, we have to also understand that there should be some cutoff age where you may not be able to fulfill your obligation towards the ministry properly because of old age, right? So that's there. Beyond that, of course, a certain level of experience is required. Sometimes experience counts. Sometimes competence also is required. So when I say competence, I mean to say the competence or expertise to hold sensitive portfolios. So all these things need to be taken into consideration. Then comes a very important element that, see, you may not be an expert in your field, but you should be a good administrator. You should be a visionary. I mean, you should have a long-term, clear-cut, precise vision uh, in which you want your ministry to move towards. So what is required is the person should be a good administrator and should also be a visionary. So these are the elements that need to be kept in mind while choosing the ministers. Okay, that's it. All these are very simple to understand now since I've explained everything. Level of integrity refers to honesty. What is the meaning of integrity? Honesty. So you have to have a corruption-free behavior, right? Okay. Now, next is a inner circle of the prime minister. See, let me also discuss one more important element here. As we are discussing this choosing ministers, so how do you create ministries? Very important. How to create ministries? Like you must have seen deputy PM. Tomorrow, if I want to create a new ministry called Temple Ministry, what do I do? And where are these ministries mentioned? So just a small point here. Creating a ministry. How do you create a ministry? Ministry can be created very, very easily. There is an article, I believe in the last class we discussed, that the president shall make rules for the convenient transaction of business and for the allocation of business amongst the ministers. Remember, under that we had seen there is a rule called Government of India, GOI, allocation of Business Rules, 1961. Under these rules, you simply have to go modify these rules by an executive order. President can modify rules via executive order and a ministry is created. This is how easy it is to create a ministry, right? This is under the provisions of Article 77, Clause 3. I hope you remember this point. So, this is how easy it is to create a ministry. Okay. Now, anyway, coming to our discussion here. So, as I was saying, inner circle of Prime Minister. Very simple. When Indira Gandhi was in power, or look at your life also today. Let's say 2 years later, you are an IPS officer, you are an IAS officer. Yes, you will take decisions primarily based on what you feel is correct, but we are all as individuals largely influenced by people around us. That's there. Say, for example, you are sitting on a dinner table and your father, your mother, your spouse tells you, let's see, that area there, I always find the roads are not very clean. Why don't you talk to the municipal commissioner and help get the drains cleaned properly? Your people around you, the informal circle comprising of family, friends, etc., they are they hold a lot of say in telling you what can be done, what should be done. They keep on advising you on a lot of occasions, right? The same thing happens for the PM also. Yes, you have bureaucrats, you have everybody, but nevertheless, you have a lot of close group of people who advise you on what can be there and what are the decisions that need to be taken. That informal group of advisors is what is called the inner circle of the Prime Minister, right? So inner circle refers to informal group of advisors. Now, these advisors are the ones who are actually responsible for running the country, and they are responsible for the most important decisions being taken in the country. This origin of this concept comes from USA. So there used to be a president in USA in 1829 to 1837 for 8 years, Andrew Jackson. So this origin of this concept is from USA, where there was a president called Andrew Jackson. Now, Andrew Jackson, of course, he was given a lot of bureaucrats to help in decision making, but he was never interested in consulting them. He was always too afraid to consult them. He was very skeptical of the officials. He would always consult his friends. So the press used to say that, what is the president doing? President goes to the parlor meaning a place where you can hang out, drink with your friends, play pool, etc. Or in his house. All the decisions of this country are being are being taken from the kitchen of the president. He discusses with his friends over dinner meetings and then makes policies. So people started calling his government kitchen cabinet or parlor cabinet, because they said he is not consulting bureaucrats, he is consulting his own friends in the house. Same kind of thing was done for Indira Gandhi also. In India, in case of Indira Gandhi, she used to consult her son, who was not a minister officially. She used to consult bureaucrats, senior politicians, party leaders. In fact, she also used to consult uh, godmen like Dhirendra Brahmachari, the Yoga Guru. Sometimes some ministers do consult some Babas also. They're very close to the Babas. For example, P.V. Narasimha Rao. He was very influenced by this self-styled godman called Nemichand Chandraswamy. If you have seen this series called Scam 1992, right, by Hansal Mehta, you would have seen that in the second part of the series, uh, Harshad Mehta keeps on talking about talking to Babaji in Delhi. Who was that Babaji? That Babaji was Chandraswamy only, Nemichand, who had a lot of influence over P.V. Narasimha Rao. So such are the situations, and hence we call this an inner circle of Prime Minister. So for Indira Gandhi, we called it kitchen cabinet. For Lal Bahadur Shastri ji, it was called the Grand Council. Grand Old Council, in the sense that Lal Bahadur Shastri came from the all these unions that were there. A lot of his friends were union members of various trade unions. So the Grand Old Council of India was his group of people who would advise him. Or Rajiv Gandhi. Rajiv Gandhi used to take advice from his friends from Doon school who were there, school friends. So his group was called Dehradun Brigade. Some examples. So that is the informal group of advisors called the inner circle of the Prime Minister. Now, one more important element is the size of the cabinet. What should be the appropriate size of the cabinet? See, if your cabinet is too large, there'll be a problem. If your cabinet is too small, then there'll be a problem. We have to have a medium-sized cabinet. For example, what can be some issues with a large-sized cabinet? Tell me, if the cabinet comprises of 40, 50 people, 50 senior ministers are there, what can be a problem? Tell me. Tell me some points. What can be an issue if the cabinet is very, very large? Delay in decision, cost, time consuming, manipulation, chaos, decision making, expenditure, high expenditure, salary, clash of opinions, coordination problem, leakage, management. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So, see, if the cabinet is too large, one thing that will be a problem is, of course, consensus building. So, consensus building can be a challenge. How to convince everyone? Then, huge burden on CFI, too many senior people, salaries. Then, too many people, excessive deliberations or discussions. Too much of discussion will result in delay in decision making. That's there. Then, one more important element is, if you have too many ministers, it will be a completely irrational division of work. irrational division of work. Uselessly we are creating ministries, right? Then, of course, too many people, then it will be difficult to maintain secrecy of information or secrecy of policy decisions. Difficult to maintain secrecy, that is also a concern. So all these are genuine concerns with respect to a very large sized cabinet, of course. But then tell me something, what can be a problem with a small sized cabinet? Issues with a small sized cabinet. If the cabinet is too small, just 4 ministers, then excessive power in single hand, okay, low efficiency, overburden, time consuming, huge burden, delay in work, less discussion, hasty decisions, less opinion, lack of innovation, okay, no proper solution. Fair enough. Too much concentration of power. I mean, the very first thing would be concentration of power. Concentration of power in hands of few. Okay. Second issue can also be again the same old problem of the innovation not being there, lack of diverse opinion. Few people we will not have the diversity of opinion, lack of diversity of opinion. Then, of course, they will be overburdened with work, right? Few people have to handle everything. Overburdened, which will result in delays in decision or policy making. Then one big problem will also again be the issue of lack of uh, proper representation of diverse groups in the country. Lack of representation of various groups, right? Then also a possibility of lack of expertise. Very few people, no expertise is there at all, right? So these are again some problems that are there with respect to a small size cabinet. And that is why the perfect outcome of this problem has to be a balance, maintaining the balance between the cabinet being not too large, not too small, right? So that is it. So this is these are issues concerning the cabinet. If it's too big, different problems. If it's too small, different set of problems. Here also you'll have no checks on the cabinet minister, because if you have multiple ministers, ministers can keep a check on each other. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you want to start a factory. Commerce minister will always want to start a factory, right? But if you have a separate minister for environment and forest and climate change, they're always concerned with taking care of the environment. So I am the minister in the same government, but I would always keep a check on the commerce industry minister from randomly allocating land for starting a factory or a particular industry. But if let's say one minister gets hold of both the portfolios together, who is going to keep a check? Where is the accountability? Right? So no checks on the ministers, meaning lack of internal accountability. Okay, so that's also there as an element. So these are all the issues and concern with respect to the size of the cabinet. Lastly, we have seen so many tasks that the cabinet performs, which makes it very, very important for us to have a very sharp and strict control over the cabinet. We have to keep the government in check. Very, very important. So please tell me, what are the limitations and checks that we can have on the government? Or who can act as a check on the government? Cabinet, the senior ministers. Tell me. Opposition, okay. MPs, judiciary, PM. Why will PM be a check on the PM? Is a part of cabinet only. People, media, civil society, press, parliament, people, public opinion, parliament. What else? President, fair enough. Lok Sabha, CAG, leader of opposition, multilateral organization. What is the meaning of multilateral organization? Judiciary, opposition, ECI, irrational decision. Yes, possible, Shalu, possible. VP may not be a check. Media, CAG, pressure groups, WTO, UN, IMF, okay. Okay. People of the constituency, WTO, fair enough, fair enough. Let's summarize all of them. First up, a big limitation or a check can be the president if he acts properly. Then, of course, the legislature, the MPs, opposition parties. Then the judiciary, very important check. Then media, national media, international media. Then, of course, people, the public opinion, very, very important, because eventually you have to face the elections. So people's opinion is a very important check. Then organizations like ECI, CAG, Lokpal, then civil society, NGOs, pressure groups, etc. Then international organizations. I mean, since we are a part of what is called the global constitution, right? We have to follow WTO rules. We have to follow UN, IMF, etc. Right? And of course, apart from all this, the biggest check of them all is the constitution itself. That is the biggest check on the cabinet, because we follow something called constitutional government. Okay. So that is all as far as the cabinet is concerned. We are done with the Council of Ministers as well, and we are done with the Union Executive. Okay. Let's quickly take up some questions. A question asked in 2022, just last year. Solve this question. Oh, sorry, 30 seconds. Mark your answer, please. %60% got this correct. B, lot of you marked C, 28%. Let's see. The Constitution of India classifies ministers. Really? The Constitution does not classify ministers. Of course, it is wrong, right? Into 4 categories. This is wrong statement. The Constitution only says Council of Ministers. Classification is done under the Government of India allocation of business rules. One is wrong. If one is wrong, remove these two. What is the right answer? Let's see. The total number of ministers in the union government, including PM, shall not exceed 15% of the total number of members in the Lok Sabha. This is absolutely correct. It was added through which amendment? 91st Amendment Act of the year 2003. 2 is correct. B, 2 only. Okay. Next question asked in 2017. I'll give you a minute to solve this. Read all the statements carefully and then mark your answer. Done. So choose the one that brings out the principle underlying the cabinet form of government. So C is the right answer. A mechanism of parliamentary democracy for ensuring what? Collective responsibility of the government towards the people. That is the idea of cabinet. An arrangement for minimizing the criticism against government. Of course, that's not reason for cabinet. A is wrong. A mechanism for speeding up the activities of government. No, that's of course not the reason for cabinet. A device for strengthening the hands of head of government whose hold over people is in a state of useless, completely inaccurate description of cabinet. Cabinet's purpose is to hold the government accountable towards the people of the country, right? Okay. So we are done with our discussion on the cabinet. Now, in Lakshmikant, if you want to read the book, you have 2 chapters. They have separated the 2 chapters between PM and Council of Ministers, chapter 19 and 20. Now, in case people who are reading this book called Indian Constitution at Work, if you are reading that book, you can refer to chapter 4 from the book. Okay. Important articles. There are 3 important articles: 74, 75, 78. Mind you, we have also studied one schedule. That is schedule 3. What is schedule 3? The oath and affirmation of certain categories of people. Okay. And before we move on, let's solve some questions quickly. Okay. Question number 1. Please solve this. I'll give you 45 seconds to solve this question. Only 16% got this correct. Oh, let's see. With reference to Council of Ministers. See, let's look at question statement 2 first. The nature of advice tendered by the Council of Ministers to the President can be inquired by Supreme Court if it is unconstitutional. No, it can't. Article 74, Clause 2 very clearly says that the advice tendered can never be inquired into in any court of law, right? So that is not possible only. In fact, Supreme Court in SR Bommai case has also said the same thing. You will not, I will not, or they will not inquire into the advice. Article 74, Clause 2, as simple as that. Whether it is constitutional or not, we cannot inquire into that. That's a secret advice. So 2 is wrong. If 2 is wrong, then this and this can't be the answers. Now, coming to A, I think we have been discussing in the recent times for the president and the vice president, and I've told you we cannot have a vacuum in the country in any post. How can there be no government only? It is not possible. So even when the Lok Sabha resigns, the term comes to an end, right? Lok Sabha gets dissolved, the government continues till the new elections take place and the new government is formed. So this is actually correct. Why? Because the old government continues till new government is formed. How can there be a vacuum in the country? No PM only. Is it possible? At every given point of time, we have to have somebody who is the head of the government. We cannot have a country or the prime minister. That is why this is done to avoid any kind of political vacuum in the country. Okay? That is why we always have the government continuing till the new government is formed. And just a day before the new government is formed, the old government submits their resignation to the president and the new government takes over. That is how it is done. Okay? So we will always have somebody who is heading the country. Let's say the PM dies. The president will immediately appoint somebody as the prime minister. So we cannot have a country without a government. That is there. Okay. So that is with respect to this question. Let's solve one more question quickly. Again, I'll give you 45 seconds. Should be appropriate. Sushmit, what about emergency? What about emergency? Under emergency, there is no such issue of government being dissolved or dismissed and all. I don't understand the question only. Emergency has got nothing to do with the central government being dissolved and all, or the Lok Sabha being dissolved. %32% got this correct. The portfolio to the members of Council of Ministers are allocated by the President. Yes or no? Of course, that statement is correct. Though this is done officially, because who makes the rules for convenient transaction of business? Who makes the rules for allocation of business? The president makes the rules. Remember, president makes rules. Please never forget this. Okay, so this is the official stand that the president makes the rules. So one is correct. One is correct. Remove these two. Now it's either 2 or 3. Look at 3. After the 40th amendment, advice of Council of Ministers has been made binding. Really? After 40th or 42nd? So 3 is wrong. This is wrong. A is the right answer. The Constitution provides that the Prime Minister shall communicate to the President all decisions of the Council of Ministers relating to administration. Which article is this? Article 78. 2 is correct. Solve one more question. I will give you a minute. Please read the question properly and then think on what is the right answer. %50 marked C. Answer is D. I'll tell you why. So you knew a few things. Appointment of the Prime Minister when no party has majority, of course, that is a discretion of the President. In which of the above cases is the President not bound? Meaning discretion. Discretion meaning what? Of his own choice and free will. One is correct. Remove this, can't be the answer. Exercising pocket veto, of course, discretion. 2 is correct. This can't be the answer. Now it's between C and D. A temporary C. 4 has to be correct. 4 is there in both. Dismissal of Council of Ministers when it cannot prove the confidence. Of course, it is correct. What is 3? A temporary delay of an ordinary legislation, ordinary bill, even when the Lok Sabha has a confidence in the Council of Ministers. Meaning what? Government has majority. But can the President temporarily, for a small period, delay an ordinary bill? Tell me. Can he do it? Can the President delay an ordinary bill? There is a term for it actually. Yes, some people have mentioned a term now. That term is called suspensive veto. What is suspensive veto? Suspensive veto basically refers to a temporary delay of an ordinary legislation, right? It was just defining suspensive veto in a different way to trick you into thinking it is improper. So anyway, the third statement is also right. So 1 through and 3 are right. This means we have to have D as the answer. Anyway. Okay. Fourth option was not visible to me. Still, you could have marked the correct answer because 3 is right. Anyway, so that is the answer. D. Solve one last question, I believe. Solve this. Oh, poll. Not too much of time, easy question. So just 30 seconds. Preetham, pocket veto is permanent delay. Temporary delay is suspensive veto for a small period of time only. Okay, easy question. Half if you got this correct. I'm not sure why others got it wrong. 25% mark. C is the answer. Okay, one is correct, right? Nominated members of the houses are not debarred. Not debarred meaning debar means what? To prevent. So they are not prevented. They are allowed to become ministers. One is correct. No problem. Remove these two. Let's look at two. To be the prime minister, the person has to be a member of Lok Sabha only. Really? Lok Sabha only or any house? Either house. Right? We had solved this exact question in our discussion on the Council of Ministers today only. So 2 is wrong. A, 1 only is the right answer. Okay, that is all as far as our Council of Ministers is concerned. When is I had mentioned the break time. The break time is at 5:40, I believe. 15 minutes more. Bear with me, and then we'll have a break. Let me just look at the leaderboard. I think we have now the new leaderboard. Of course, the old one is gone. We have the new leaderboard now. A lot of you have gotten all the questions correct, maybe. Rani, Vipin, Shubh Tarun, Sayadri, Shiva, Yash, Deepak, Harsha Nanduri, Shalu, Turgesh, Sachin. Who else? 70. Okay, all these have gotten 70. A lot of you have gotten 60 also. Dhaval, Saurabh, Suraj, Jay, Ankit, Sudhanshu, Ashutosh, etc. have got 60. Okay, great. So, continuing our discussion with the cabinet committees. So, we had been discussing along the lines of, see, normally, in an offline class, when we take tests or when I take tests, I distribute chocolates to the highest scorer. But sadly, in an online class, that cannot be done. So my best wishes only, no chocolates. Anyway, so coming to cabinet committees. See, people in a country, we are very busy in our lives on daily basis. So because we are very busy in our lives, we have chosen from amongst ourselves people who can represent our interest in the parliament. So those people are called legislators. MPs, right? These MPs from amongst themselves have chosen people who form a part of executive government. Executive or government or council of ministers, same thing. Now, amongst the council of ministers, there is a senior most group of people called cabinet. Amongst the cabinet also, there are certain select cabinet ministers, even smaller group. That is called a cabinet committee, hereby referred to as CC, cabinet committees, CCs. First things first, what are cabinet committees? See, government's business has become very complex these days. A lot of tasks. How do we reduce the workload of the cabinet? Now, think of this. Let's say you want to start a factory. Set up an industry. You have to take the approval from Ministry of Finance to get funds, Ministry of Home Affairs, right? Background check, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So many ministries are involved, right? You have to run from this ministry to that ministry, get approval, then problems arise, then go back to the ministry. It can create confusion. What if all these ministers could sit in one place and give approvals? They could discuss. Only the relevant ministers would sit together, discuss, and give approvals to projects. Committees, cabinet committees, committees which comprise of cabinet ministers. So these committees, firstly, comprise of cabinet ministers as members. And what is a task? The task or the definition could be, you can define them as something which is basically, they are organizational devices which reduce the workload of the cabinet. Which reduce the workload of cabinet, and also they help in managing the complex business of the government, and help in managing complex business of the government. This is what is a definition of a cabinet committee. Now, where are these committees mentioned? Of course, they are not mentioned in the constitution. They are mentioned under Government of India transaction of business rules. Ministries are mentioned under allocation of business rules. Committees are mentioned under transaction of business rules. Again, as per Article 77, Clause 3, President can make rules, yes or no, for the convenient transaction of business. Cabinet committees, that is where they are mentioned. Okay, so Government of India transaction of business rules mentions committees, and allocation of business rules mentions what? Mentions the ministries. So we have basically some important features of these committees. Number one, they are extra constitutional, meaning not mentioned in the constitution. They are executive bodies. Number two, see, committees can be of two kinds. Standing committee, that is permanent, which will always be there. So any committee which is permanent is called a standing committee. And any committee which is temporary is called an ad hoc committee. Ad hoc means temporary. Okay. For example, cabinet committee can be created on pandemic. Example, pandemic, maybe some war with Pakistan. I'm not sure if we should fight a war with Pakistan now. Pakistan is on a path of self-degradation. So why should we, get involved there? But anyway, let's say we have a war with Pakistan. There can be a cabinet committee set up. Some ministers are there who will sit and decide what is the plan of action. After we defeat Pakistan, then the committee is disbanded. Task force committee is over, right? So those are called temporary committee, which are meant for a temporary purpose only, for a specific task. Then we have some standing or permanent committee, which are always there, which have a fixed task to perform. And what will be the nomenclature? Nomenclature means what? Name. And what is the number of members of a committee? All this depends on the Prime Minister. He is a supreme authority to decide on all these things. Membership and all, who will be member and all, Everything is decided by the Prime Minister. PM is the real boss on what will be the membership of the committee, who can be member, etc. And as I said, the members of these committees can only be cabinet ministers. Then there are some people who are called special invitees. Other ministers can also be called to attend the meeting, but they are not members. They are not members. They are called special invitees. Okay. So this is with respect to a cabinet committee. Rani, JPC is a parliamentary committee. It consists of MPs. We are talking about a cabinet committee. It only consists of cabinet ministers. This is a government committee, not a parliamentary committee. CCs are extra constitutional. No, we can't call them statutory because they are not made through a law. They are made through rules. That is why I mentioned that they are extra constitutional, not mentioned in the constitution. Okay. Example of standing committee. I have not even mentioned example. Just wait. We'll discuss standing committees only because that is what is important. So we have two types of committees. As I said, ad hoc committee and standing committee. So now our focus has to be on standing committee. Why? Because these are permanent committees. We have 8 standing committees as of now. These are the 8 standing committees. Now, see, in your books, you may find that they may say the cabinet committee's membership is from 3 to 8. That is wrong information. Because there are some cabinet committees which have lesser members also and some committees which have more members also. Okay. So this is what you find mentioned here in the slide is absolutely correct information, up-to-date information. So we have 8 cabinet committees. You can observe that out of these 8 committees, 6 committees chairman, CM stands for chairman, is the Prime Minister. There are 2 committees. One is the Cabinet Committee on Accommodation, whose chairman is who is this person? Home Minister. And there is one more committee which is called the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs, whose chairman is the Defense Minister. Okay, so that is there with respect to the chairpersons. Now, in your book, again, you may find that the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs chairman is a Home Minister. That is old information since 2019 only. Since 2019 only, the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs chairman is the Defense Minister of the country. Okay. Second piece of information is the number of members. I'll write here, though it is not important, just to showcase number of members. So the first committee is the Appointment Committee of Cabinet. Now, the separate functions of these committees is of no concern to us. Don't expect a question in the exam from the functions of committees. But if somebody here says, no, sir, I want to study useless information, I need to, feel free. Who is stopping you? I'll tell you also. If you go on Google and type Government of India Transaction of Business Rules, download the PDF, the functions of these committees, you will find it mentioned under Schedule 1 of the Government of India Transaction of Business Rules 1961. You can download it and read to your heart's content. Nobody is stopping you. Feel free, right? Who am I to stop you from reading useless information? But otherwise, for the examination, not really important. I'll just briefly explain and summarize what are the functions these committees perform, starting with the very first one, the Appointment Committee of Cabinet. So this committee has just 2 people. just two people. And if any committee has two people, of which one is the Prime Minister only, Narendra Modi, who will be the second member? Of course, his best friend, Mr. Amit Shah. So this committee has only two members. What is the task of this committee? The task of this committee is to take all decisions regarding high-level appointments to the cabinet secretariat, to public enterprises, to banks, to financial institutions, every such thing, right? Then they also consider and decide on people who are facing some issues, or all the officers of the rank of joint secretary and above. If you have any kind of concern, any kind of problem, you can approach the appointment committee of cabinet. This is a committee which, see, these committees are extra constitutional, right? I have used that word specifically because these committees are not mentioned in the constitution. These committees are not made through law. They can't be called statutory. And these committees cannot give binding orders. They can only give recommendations, right? These committees only give recommendations. But of course, if a committee comprises of the Prime Minister and is giving recommendation, do you think the other ministers will dare to oppose it? But you are holding your post as a minister because the PM has chosen you. The PM asked the president, sir, ma'am, appoint him, my best friend. And now you dare to question the Prime Minister only. So of course you won't. Makes no sense. That is why these committees are complete. I mean, having a PM as a member of all these committees makes no sense. Ideally, we should have had some other minister in these committees, right? Because eventually all these recommendations go to cabinet, where they are approved by the entire cabinet, where PM is already there. But nevertheless, the PM is there as a chairperson. So look at this, all important appointments in this country are actually recommended by the appointment committee of cabinet. By far the most important committee when it comes to appointments is the appointment committee of the cabinet. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's take a break as of now. After the break, we'll take up for discussion the remaining committees. We'll see the pros, some challenges, and the Attorney General of India. And of course, time will permit us, and we'll also begin a discussion on the chapter Parliament. Okay, that's all for me, guys. Let's take a break now. Be back at 6 to continue the discussion further. Break, please.